I'm gonna fiddle with this knob here.
Okay.
I don't want you to get distracted when I fiddle with the knob.
Mike's gonna fiddle with the knob real quick.
I just fiddled. It's
Hey,
the fiddling
it
is done.
happens.
You know what? We don't stop doing that after college.
Wow.
Hello.
Number 1 on the college charts this summer was Better Than Ezra. And at number 2, Ezra.
Welcome to Irritable Dad Syndrome. If this podcast lasts for more than 2 hours, please call your doctor. Here are your hosts, Mike and Darren.
Hi, I'm Darren.
I'm Mike.
Welcome to Irritable Dad Syndrome, Cincinnati's comedy podcast. This is episode 271. This is a very special episode. Well, they're all special. But for me,
some are more special than others.
Some are more special than
Yeah.
It's like your kids. It's like you say you love your kids equally. You don't. There's always one kid that you love a little bit more. And I think it's going to be tonight's episode because we have a very special guest, Mark Malkoff. Mark is the host of Inside Late Night. It's a podcast. It's about Saturday Night Live and Late Night with David Letterman and Conan O'Brien and other late night television hosts. But I want to ask him 1,000 questions about his previous podcast, the Carson podcast. Anyway, Mark, welcome to Irritable Dad Syndrome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, this will be fun to talk. Yeah, Johnny Carson. I can't believe it's been 12 years of my life, 8 years on the podcast and 4 years working on this book that's coming out in October, the Carson book. So
Yeah.
I never envisioned that this would be a thing where I've talked to over 400 people at this point about Carson, people that knew him, people that went on this show, his friends. I did not think that would happen.
It's insane to me, some of the people you got to be on your podcast. Now, let me ask you, when you started this, were you... Okay, it's hard to say. Were you a somebody when you started the podcast? Did people know who you were? Because, Mike, he opened up this podcast. His very first guest was Stephen Wright.
Okay.
So, you came out swinging with Stephen Wright.
It was all time, and it is one of those things where I've worked on so many projects throughout my existence, and it's extremely rare that the C's part right away, and it was one of those things where I was with Peter Jones, who did the PBS American Masters Johnny Carson documentary, and I was going to do just a generic podcast, but I always secretly wanted to do it about Johnny Carson, and he was the one that's like, Mark, you need to do this Carson, because his doc was incredible, and I just had so many more questions, and he's like, a doc can only really be like 2 hours, so he's like, tell everyone I endorse you. I'm like, who should I have on? And he's like, do you want Carl Reiner's home phone number? I said, yes.
Yeah.
Do you want Angie Dickinson's email address? I said, I do. Yeah. And it was one of those things where, like, Stephen Wright, I was able to get a message to him, and within an hour, he called me. Like, I did not expect that. And then I was like, okay, so I'll come to Massachusetts. And he's like, Mark, you don't understand. I'm in New York. I'm in Washington Square Park right now. I can record in 2 hours. I was like, oh my. So it's like
goodness.
Problem solving. I had no time to research, but we did it, and we still keep in touch. I mean, He emailed me like a couple weeks ago, and he's been so kind to me. We've talked on the phone and kept in touch a bit. But it was one of those things where if it wasn't Johnny Carson, there is absolutely no way that the heavy hitters would. It was a happy accident where it's like, I equate it to somebody's college experience where they had such a good time, and they never get to talk about it in depth. No one ever really asks them about it for more than a minute or two. So, and I do my research. So a lot of times they're kind of like tickled a little bit. They forgot things or they didn't know certain things. So I try to make it as fun as I can, but I never thought all these heavy hitters would say yes to me. It didn't occur to me that would be a thing.
Well, you're probably tired of hearing me saying this because you and I were on the Letterman podcast, and I was telling you how much an admirer I am of you because of the depth of research that you're doing on each and every guest. It amazes me because you would oftentimes stump them. You would ask them a question and they're like, they completely forgot that they did this, or you corrected. I think it was Smigel. He was talking about one season that he was writing for somebody. And you're like, oh, yeah, that was 93. He goes, I thought that was 95. You're like, no, that was in 93.
Some of the stuff is in my head. And then like the Saturday Night Live stuff, I'm pretty good without much research. But some of the other stuff, some of these people that I've talked to have been interviewed so many times, and they're asked the same questions, and I do the Carson stuff, and then if I just go with my curiosity with things maybe they haven't hopefully talked about, or maybe things that haven't been that they are proud of that they haven't really gotten a chance to talk about. So I just people were nice with their time. A lot of times I would ask for like 20 minutes, and then 2 hours goes by. I mean, sometimes people wanted to keep talking. It didn't. And I also was very wary about if the audience would turn on me if I talked about other stuff other than Johnny Carson. And it was, people loved it. I mean, people loved hearing the Carson, and then I could talk to whoever about movies and TV and other appearances going on Letterman or wherever. So it's just these organic conversations. I just didn't foresee it going 8 years. And the audience was unbelievable to follow me on this. I had never met anybody that loved Carson's show as much as me, or knew much about the show other than, oh, I love the show, and they could very surfacely stuff that everyone knows, but I didn't know there were other people like us. So it was a pleasant surprise, and I'm so grateful for the experience.
Well, you were talking about, guests, they would give you 20 minutes. A few years ago, I was fortunate, and I was able to interview Billy Bob Thornton. And his manager said, he'll give you 20 minutes. That's it. And he told me he's not talking movies. He's not talking television. The only thing he wants to talk about is his band and the music that he's doing right now. I said, okay. And I went in there under those requirements, and Billy Bob would not shut up. It was like 45, almost 50 minutes. Yeah. And the manager came in and says, Billy Bob, you got to go. He goes, oh, okay. Sorry, fellas, But yeah, he just would have talked and talked and talked because either he enjoyed me. It's likely.
It's a testament to you.
He enjoyed me. He enjoyed what I was asking him. But he just was open. And that's what I noticed with a lot of the guests on your show, that they were happy as clams to just talk and talk and talk with you.
People were nice. It was like back in the day when I started this, there really wasn't recording how we are right now remotely. So I was going to Los Angeles. I was going all around New York. I was taking trains to Jersey to sit down with these people in person. People were inviting me to into their homes, famous people. I basically would say, we can record. I'm happy to come either to you, or we could record nearby. And they would be like, why don't you just come to my home? I'm like, okay. So but now it's just so much easier just to do the remote thing. So
who had the nicest celebrity home of all the places that you went?
Oh my goodness, there were so many of them. I'm trying to think like who had some that I was like in awe of.
And be honest, did you steal anything? Did you take a coaster?
I wish I would have, like, I don't know, like a sugar packet of. Paul Anka.
I got Carl Reiner's remote control.
Yeah, there you go.
Paul Anka had a really nice place. I remember. I thought that was really nice. Marshall Brickman had a great Central Park West apartment. I'm trying to think in terms of the homes where I was just like, Sybil Shepherd had a really nice place. Yeah, I just went all around. Very wild to me. Chevy Chase had a nice place. I really liked his estate.
Now, did you book your own guests, or did you have somebody helping you? What was the process? Because with Irritable Dad Syndrome, I do the audio portion, and Mike does all the video, and he handles all our online stuff. So we split it up, and we're busy as can possibly be with two of us.
Sure.
Did you do it all yourself? Or?
I was doing all the booking. Yeah, I'm pretty good at it. Like I've always been pretty good at like being able to get a message to the right person, and it takes a while. Like it took me, I think it was like 4 or 5 hours of Googling to figure out Mel Brooks's office, his assistant's email address, the correct one. But then it's like I reached her, but even to get Mel Brooks to say yes is a minor miracle, and that's only because Carl Reiner told him to do it, and that he's like, I just couldn't believe that Mel said yes, because he says no to almost everything, and he doesn't like to say yes until I found out the day before. I found out like less than 24 hours notice that he said yes, because he doesn't like to decide stuff. So, but yeah, I just would reach out. I would try to go directly to either the person, then personal assistants. And if that didn't work, if I didn't have that, I would publicist and managers I didn't try. But once in a while, I would be like, I had trouble with like Pat Boone, and John Davidson didn't want to do it, but he had people, really nice people that were like telling them that they should do it. And they reached out to me and they're like, do you want Pat Boone? I'm like, yeah, I tried. And then John Davidson's person was like, I told him he should do it. And he had such a good time, and I'm thrilled he did. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just knocking on doors. It was writing letters, emails, guessing people's email addresses. This is back before when you had to explain what a podcast was to certain people.
Yeah.
Famous people didn't have podcasts. Like now it's like jury duty for famous people having to do all the podcasts. I feel like when I ask them now, it's like they do all their friends, and then they get to me and it's like, gosh.
Oh, yeah, I don't feel like doing this now.
No, what was it? Somebody was on Letterman. They're like, hey, will you do my podcast? Sure. And then after we record mine, then you can do my podcast. Okay. Yeah, because everybody has one now.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we have a podcast.
Yeah.
It's different from when I started. When I got in the game, I started recording them, I think it was like 2013. We were premiered on the 2014, and then we ended 2022. I am, with my book coming out in October, probably going to do a couple, some bonus, I don't want to call them Carson podcast episodes, but I'm definitely going to be interviewing some people that I didn't have on, and to put them on the Carson podcast feed, most likely.
Yeah.
I just had no way. I ran out of guests, and sadly, people that were kids on the show now are in their 50s, and the guests were unfortunately, sadly dying off. But since I've, been writing the book, I unearthed so many other people I didn't know existed that did the show and that had ties to Carson. So I definitely can do some episodes.
Okay.
So.
Well, with the new book that comes out in October, how much in the book is new, or is it? I mean, you had to have included some stuff that you found out that was on the podcast, right?
I think it's probably it's definitely more, at least half new, if not more.
Okay.
I definitely used the podcast interviews. I mean, there were so many discoveries, where I just couldn't believe some of the stuff I unearthed, like dopamine hits, like adrenaline on a roller coaster type stuff that I unearthed just through doing research. And I was able to talk to people that wouldn't talk to me for the podcast. And I just, if I was able to get a big discovery and some days I felt like I was a journalist. I had to cold call people, getting phone numbers just to verify things, and just trying to figure out if people tell me some things, tell me these really big claims, just trying to verify this stuff. And it seemed like this book was like a big puzzle, but so much new stuff, that's what I wanted to give to the readers, stuff that people hopefully didn't know, the stuff I didn't know,
right?
That I think hopefully people will get excited about.
You're listening to Irritable Dad Syndrome, Cincinnati's comedy podcast.
There's these two fellers standing on a bridge going to the bathroom. One feller says that the water is cold, other feller said the water is deep. I believe one feller come from Arkansas. Get it?
Was there anybody that you really wanted on the podcast that you just couldn't get to say yes?
Oh, I mean, yeah, Dave Letterman will never talk to me in a million years. I had a day job at his show. I mean, he just doesn't talk Carson. He didn't talk to Bill Zemi, I don't think, for the book, for Bill's book. Bill told me Dave wouldn't do it. I think maybe it's just because Carson's his hero, and it just feels like, I don't know, you shouldn't be talking about him like this or what. But yeah, I couldn't get Dave, even though he knows about the podcast. Bette Midler apparently says no to. One of our friends told me she says no. She either will say no to everything or eventually say no to everything. Mm-hmm. And she's just even they were telling me, one of them was it's so hard being friends with her. You have to really want to be a friend with her, just because it's not easy. And I couldn't get her to do it. And that's what it is. I mean, truthfully, there's the people that I wanted. There's one or two people that are not famous that internally worked on Carson's show that I would have picked over them. Dave would have been a good. I have a lot of questions for him, but for a lot of the bigger names, like Seinfeld or like a Bette Midler. I would rather go for like the staff members that were there for like, for 25, 30 years that have the inside stories. Those were the ones that usually the staffers are the ones that I got the most emails from listeners that people loved, were the people that usually were not famous, or, maybe someone like Peter LaSalle, who like people working in entertainment might know him because he produced Letterman and Craig Ferguson and Johnny Carson, Arthur Godfrey. And I think that the people that weren't famous sometimes have the best stories and were the most captivated.
One of the best episodes of Carson podcast, the one that I enjoyed, was when you did a roundtable with the writers.
Oh yeah, we did a couple of those.
Yeah, and that one spoke to me because a couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough, I was invited to New York to go to Rupert G's retirement party.
Oh wow,
and so I was at the Ed Sullivan Theater with all these writers and producers, and I met all these people, all these heroes of mine. It was like going to Letterman camp for me.
No, of course. I saw the photo, sure.
Yeah, and then the next night, Mike Chisholm of the Letterman podcast, a mutual friend, invited me out to dinner, and Libby and I went to dinner with Steve Young, Steve Weiner, and Steve O'Donnell. Okay, and so there's this moment.
Heavy hitters, for sure.
Are you kidding? Yeah. And there's this moment where I'm sitting there with these three Letterman writers, and they're talking about, Richard Klein and George Carlin and the Smothers Brothers and this guy and when this guy came out, and I'm trying to absorb everything I can possibly absorb, and I'm trying not to act giddy like a little kid, because I'm sitting there with these.
I get it. I do get it.
And I kept my cool.
That's good.
Kept my cool,
Yeah.
But then another thing was like a couple years after that, in Indianapolis, I went to see Steve Young. And he went out to dinner with my buddy Don and I after his performance with the Bathtubs Over Broadway.
Of course.
So he went out to dinner with us, and he's telling stories and telling these jokes. And I keep hearing, it's like the voice of Letterman, because he was one of the people who spoke for Letterman. It was almost like going out to dinner with Dave. Did you get that feeling when you were with the writers for Carson? Did you feel like did they say things that sounded like Johnny?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, they sometimes, there's certain people there that just had his voice, that knew it, that could go into it when they wanted to. I mean, some writers still have dreams that are all panic dreams where they have to write Karnaks, and they would all tell me Johnny thought it was easy, but the Karnaks were the hardest. They would tell me that Johnny had no idea how hard those were to get them right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like Letterman has such a specific voice. I can see that. I remember the first time I met Steve O'Donnell, I was in complete. I think he was working on it. He was working on a game show for the History Channel, but really nice guys.
Oh, yeah.
But definitely the people that were there back on the NBC show, especially. I'm like, I have so many questions. I reached out to Adam Resnick and asked him if he would do my podcast, and he's like, "Don't hate me, Mark." But I can't. But Adam did. I mean, most famous probably Cabin Boy, but him and Chris and Get a Life. But he was on Dave's NBC show. But he's writing another book right now, so he said maybe when he's promoting that, he'll come on my podcast. But Adam's somebody who I really would get excited to talk to, that wrote for Dave, that was an intern on the show. But I definitely still feel the excitement when I get to talk to these people. I remember, like being at a party with Steve Young and just asking him like, what were your favorite bits that you wrote for Dave, and just like what was it, the fat guy, strong guy, the genius was his, and him just telling me stories like his favorite bits, and I was like a little kid hearing about from him. Yeah, and just really nice guys.
Well, you were talking about Karnak with the writers, and the joke that you used was Oxnard. What's the least appetizing piece of the ox?
Yeah. Sometimes they would, right? Sometimes like 500 of those, and they would get them down to maybe 12 or something. And one of the head writers was telling me that Johnny did not, and I was at the Letterman writers felt the same. We're not good at picking the jokes to do. They always thought like Johnny was not good with picking but it's just what it is.
I had a theory, and Letterman talked about this with Peter LaSalle after Johnny died. I thought that Johnny intentionally threw in jokes that bombed because of how he carried himself after he would bomb. But
everybody
Peter said that was not true.
It's not true. No, like it's like definitely like people believe that, but no. I mean, he wanted this stuff to work. It was just the audiences back then were like now they applaud after every monologue joke, no matter what, and just but it was like when the silence is. I mean, definitely there were writers that like Ray Siller, who's Johnny's head writer, would get really excited and pray that a Karnak wouldn't work, so Johnny would do one of their Karnak savers, which was invented by Marshall Brickman, like may a camel whatever to your neighbor, to your I don't know, whatever it is. It's a bad example. But Johnny was just a master at just getting through the awkwardness. I mean, but they never, to my knowledge, ever wrote anything, or he never picked anything that he thought would bomb. He might have. I'm not really sure. I mean, it was so painful to be out there sometimes with him. Like if it was a bad audience some nights, I mean, he just was able to get through it, but barely sometimes.
So when does your book come out?
October 21st, 2 days before Johnny's 100th birthday, what would be his 100th birthday. And it's called Love Johnny Carson. It's available for pre-order. And the reason it's called Love Johnny Carson is because, I talked to over 400 people, and I can't tell you how many of the people when I would sit down with them to record would be like, I love Johnny Carson. And it just was not the prevailing narrative that the media was putting out, that it was all of that this guy was cold and aloof, didn't have any friends, didn't talk to his staff. And there were periods where Johnny was going through divorces and other stuff where he definitely like retreated from the staff. But
20 some years of his life, he was going through a divorce.
Yeah, pretty much. But sitting down with so many of the staffers, hearing their stories with Johnny, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe the number of people, the stories that came out that they loved this guy. And it's completely, the people that were closest to him, his friends would, and one of the wives was saying this as well. They'd say he was the same Johnny. If he was relaxed and with like people he was comfortable with off camera, he was the same Johnny on camera as he was off, like almost the exact same person. And I would hear that from them. And I just, it's completely what people do not think of him as. They think him as cold and aloof, and the self-preservation comes in just because, like, I mean, I can't tell you how many people showed up at NBC with knives, got past security. Mark David Chapman, who killed John Lennon, had a short list of celebrities to kill. It wasn't John Lennon. Johnny was on the list. I mean, it was like constant threats.
I did not know that.
People in public, when he was here in New York for the first 10 years from 62 to 72, he'd be out in public, and it's just tough because people would watch him every night, and they thought, like, I'm friends with this guy. They would physically grab him by the arm and be like, Johnny, come meet my friends. And, it's just people didn't understand that this guy, you're his TV friend, but he doesn't know who you are. And he just couldn't go anywhere without people physically accosting him. And he just had to withdrew just for self-preservation. And also like an athlete, he would save his energy for showtime. So like someone like Letterman would be there all day, whereas Johnny would be working at home on the show all day, but wouldn't show up until maybe like 2 or 3 hours beforehand, and then just really pace himself. So if people saw him and he really wasn't like talkative, a lot of it was just, especially when he was getting older, he just didn't have the energy when he was doing like the 3 nights a week. He just had to really pace himself and preserve his energy. He was very good at preserving his energy. And when he did that show, like I heard it from so many people. They say like sparks were flying off of him. I heard this with Letterman too. Madeline Smithberg told me that like you could just feel this energy from Letterman, and it was very strange. Like people would tell me that like a couple people that said that they shook his hand. Carson during the show was like shaking hands with a nuclear reactor. I mean, it was like the energy that he had. George Lopez told me, he was telling me when he bought Johnny Carson's Rolex that when he first put it on, he felt this bolt of energy, and he's like, I can't really explain it. I was like, It's like everybody I've talked to I don't know. It's definitely consistent. I thought that was interesting.
So you're talking about, people say that the Carson you saw on camera was the Carson that they saw off camera. I've worked in local television for 32 years, and when people hear me, oh, you worked at that station, what's this anchor like?
Sure.
What's the sports guy like? With the people who you interviewed, was there anybody who had a drastic off-camera compared to on-camera personality?
I'm trying to think. I know what you're talking about. Not really. I mean, I think someone like Regis was Regis 100%. I had a day job at Millionaire, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So he gave me I think 2 hours notice, and I went to his apartment. But I'm trying to think. I know what you're saying. Some of the comedians can be kind of serious. So I bet I'm so used to that. But yeah, the people that were like David Steinberg, and people that knew him would say that he was the same Johnny, pretty much close. Yeah.
Well, back to Stephen Wright. I met him after one of his shows. He came to Cincinnati, and I was so nervous. If he's not what I'm expecting, if he's a jerk, I'm going to be so disappointed. And even even if he's kind of jumpy, then I might be disappointed. But he's exactly what I was hoping.
He's super nice. Just a quirky guy. Yeah, nice, funny man.
He was getting really lively talking with you, and he actually got excited.
Yeah, he got emotional. There are a bunch of people like that. Some people were crying at me and stuff, but I couldn't believe he agreed to do it. He told me afterwards, or maybe even that normally these things take months to set up, even if they are set up with him, and he just wanted to do it, and it was Carson, and that was even on the anniversary of his Carson debut, every year he still calls Peter LaSalle, the producer, thanking him for getting him the book in. And when Stephen Wright won an Oscar for Best Short Film, he thanked Johnny Carson and thanked Peter on the speech. So yeah, it definitely is one of those things where I think this was for some of these people the best time of their life going on the show, and just the moments and just the emotion that was there.
Yeah, you asked him who he thought had the most powerful stand-up debut, and he said exactly what I was thinking was Drew Carey. And you got to interview Drew Carey too.
And it took me, some of these people took me years to convince. I mean, I emailed Drew Carey for a couple years, and I think the one that got him finally was, I mentioned, I talked to Stephen Wright and asked him who had the best set, the strongest, and he mentioned you. And then, I don't know, a couple weeks later, I was at The Price is Right at CBS Television City in between tapings, sitting down with him, and he couldn't have been nicer. But yeah, a lot of these people just are so busy. And I think a lot of the, some of them took Angie Dickinson, I think took maybe 6 years, 5 years. Some people took a while to get to, I would just check in maybe once or twice a year politely and say maybe why they should do it and who just did it. Maybe listen to this episode. But
yeah, well, you would. Okay,
we're taking notes on what we need to do.
We're totally taking notes here.
Oh,
we reached out to Nick Offerman, and he famously turned down doing Irritable Dad Syndrome, and that was the last time.
So our strategy
we should contact him again.
Yeah. So our strategy so far is to put celebrity name at yahoo.com.
Yeah.
It works sometimes. It really does work sometimes. Shockingly, guessing the emails has worked for me many times, and I'm always I can't believe this. But
I don't believe you. Who did you guess an email that worked?
I'll tell you afterwards, but a lot of times it's.
Well, you don't have to give me their email, but
no. But a lot of times,
it's at Harrison Ford at AOL.
Yeah.
He would be an AOL guy.
Some of them are just
Romano. Yeah.
I don't know. So I reached out to people just any possible way, but for some of these people, it's they want if it's they're plugging something, or I would be sometimes when I'd reach out at me I want to talk about I'd be so specific. Your 7 Carson appearances, and then very specific things, so they could tell that I had some knowledge and I wasn't going to do a cookie cutter interview with everything they've ever talked about. So I try to just be really specific, and then just check in every so often.
Yeah.
So at what point? So now I'm curious. At what point do you quit? Is there anybody that you've just stopped? I'm stopping trying. I've emailed them so many times. I've called so many times.
I think
not doing.
Dave Letterman, I'm just it's not going to happen probably, and that's fine. I don't care either way. I mean, I would love to talk to him. I just don't. The last thing I would want to do is make somebody to talk to me that doesn't want to. I mean,
Right.
Right.
I think it would go well. I mean, I know when he did the Late Shift interview with Bill Carter for the book, it was like 20 minutes. He's like, they only give you. They ended up talking for hours and hours, and that's a lot of times with Letterman. But yeah, like Bette Midler. I mean, this whole Johnny Carson thing podcast was for me just to get my questions answered. I want to know how the magic tricks were done, what went on backstage, how everything was put together. And I feel like I got my questions answered. For Inside Late Night, I mean, I'll still, I guess, maybe, even though Lorne Michaels would probably be the guy, well, he would be the guy I'd want to talk to, and it just hard. Probably, still check in. That can't hurt once a year or so just to check in, and why not? But he would definitely be the guy. But I always, with everything and like anything is possible, I really feel like if I ran into Tom Hanks in Central Park and told him what I was doing with Carson, he loves Carson. And not only like he'll like talk about like Ed Shaughnessy, the drummer, like very specific. And I was like, listen, you're walking in the park. I have my iPhone. Can I have 5 minutes? He might do it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I was also not mentioning names, but ghosted by some people, like a few well-known people that said they were going to do the podcast, and we had the time and the date, and I did all my hours of research. It's just what it is. It's part of the process, as they say. But yeah, Letterman would have been fun. I talked to a former Johnny Carson talent coordinator who worked on the Dennis Holey show, which was out of, I think, Cincinnati. And that was back in like the 60s, early 70s, and like Albert Brooks and all these people back in the day, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Hearing the stories, but that was before Letterman's time. But
didn't you interviewed the guy that opened the curtain for John?
I did. That was my whole curiosity.
I'm like, awesome. I love that.
When I started the podcast, it was part of it was like that's how my mind was working. I'm like, who is the guy? Who has the job? What are his stories? And Johnny's nephew, Jeff Sotzing, who's the CEO of president of Carson Entertainment Group, told me who the person was, and I was able to track him down and go to his home. We've talked to him on the phone a couple times. And Irv Davis, and like I wanted to know what it was like, and I just was like pretty convinced, just working with comedians sometimes, and like that, like Johnny would be very just. Because I think Letterman is like this backstage, just very much just like he needs, and rightfully so, I get it, be left alone and just be really not talk to anybody. But Johnny would be joking around with him. Like people would tell me that backstage, Johnny would be just hanging out with Irv Davis, joking, smoking a cigarette, just like completely casual. Didn't need like the minutes of silence to get, focused. And he could just, walk out there and do it. And I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. The Carson podcast is still available readily online. After you're done listening to this episode, go and listen to every episode of that. And then check out the Late Nighter podcast. How much fun is it doing that one?
Inside Late Night's been amazing. I love what Late Nighter is doing.
I'm sorry I called it Late Nighter. It's Inside Late. Your website.
Oh, it's Inside Late Night with Mark Malkoff as part of Late Nighter. But it's great. We're in a hiatus right now, and we're going to come back with a new season at the end of September. And I love talking to the people that have just those stories, of working on all the shows. I do really like talking about Saturday Night Live because I feel like it's probably my biggest knowledge other than Carson. So the SNLers I do especially like, Letterman stories for sure as well. I always love just sitting down with somebody and just hearing the stories and just being able to ask whatever I want.
This portion of Irritable Dad Syndrome is brought to you by Whoppers all-beef foot-long hot dogs. Whoppers are packed full of flavor and guaranteed to be a hit at your next tailgate party. Get a ruler and measure it yourself. If your hot dog isn't a foot long, we'll refund your money guaranteed. So what are you waiting for? Get a family pack of Whoppers today. You'll be glad you did. Now back to Mike and Larry.
In preparation for this appearance, I found out about all your previous stunts.
Oh gosh, yeah, that did happen.
Here we go.
They all happened. Somebody did a Wikipedia entry on me. I don't know who did it.
They were phenomenal. They were not sigh-worthy like what you just gave me. That sigh. Dude,
They're just like embarrassing, maybe just because I'm like older now and stuff. They're not all embarrassing, but like it feels like it's like a guy who like it feels like a different person did that stuff. I did these comedy videos. I used to do stand-up back in the day, and then I did these comedy videos, and I made my living doing them for quite a while and had sponsors and stuff. But yeah, we'll talk about any of them that you want, but they did happen. A lot of them were extremely difficult to pull off.
Well, yeah, how many people carried you across New York City was a good one.
I was carried, I think, like 13 miles by like 152 people in 11-degree weather. It was the coldest day of the year, and but it was like the whole thing was like my curiosity was like I would just hear people that had never been to New York being like, I heard New Yorkers are rude, and I'm like, I think New Yorkers are like some of the most like they're just honest and blunt, but like. My whole theory was like if I asked New Yorkers to carry me, a stranger, that they would do it and they'd not hesitate because they're used to weird stuff like that. And that's exactly what happened. And that was just painful because it was 11 degrees and I got contorted in different ways. But I had men carry me, women, senior citizens. I couldn't believe.
Would they just go as long as they could and hand you off to the next person?
Pretty much. Yeah. And then they would just set me down and the rule is I couldn't move forward unless I got convinced somebody else to carry me up. So I started at the southernmost end of Manhattan and worked my way up to like forget. But yeah, it was, I was in pain for days.
I'm telling you, that is a Conan-worthy stunt.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it is one of those things where like I did it, and then Anderson Cooper had me on his show, and he interviewed me in his studio while his stagehands took turns carrying me. It happens.
Mike and I, one of our jokes is when we have a guest on, we ask, where do you get your ideas because of the co-host on Norm Macdonald's show.
Yes, Adam Egan. It was always so funny when he would do that. And it was so awkward.
Honest to God, I was wondering, where did you figure that out? How did you come about asking for keys to the city? Your mind baffles me.
That's nice. Just curiosity. That's it. Like I love asking for ridiculous things and to see if I can pull the stuff off. And it just, I don't know. I would like just ask hypothetically. I would like to friends. I'm like, do you think people would do this? And a lot of times people are like, there's no way. And I'm like, I think I can pull it off. I'm pretty good with my persistence and convincing with positive things. But it was just like, I don't know. I would just always write down stuff that amused me, the concepts that I thought were funny. And then usually maybe like, I don't know, wait like a week or two and go back and some would just like stand out, but I rejected most of them, and some of them were kind of dangerous. So Christine would occasionally have to say no to those. But
okay, what did you turn down?
I think one of them was I was gonna like shit myself overseas legally or something like that. That was not good.
And many questions. Is it illegal to yourself in some countries?
To ship. Mail myself overseas.
Sounds like I could go somewhere right now.
That was.
I think you would die doing that. Yeah.
I remember at one point when the tourism board of the Netherlands had me go to Amsterdam and I wanted to tie myself to a windmill and do something that they were like, they wisely, and Christine would have been like, no, but they were like safety. And I was like, come on, it'll be fun. What could possibly go wrong?
Right.
So yeah, some of those were intense. The Starbucks one was the hardest one. That was 171 Starbucks where I went to I wanted to see if it was possible to all the stores in Manhattan in less than 24 hours make a purchase to consume something, all 171 stores at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I had to go to a store every 8 minutes for 23 hours straight. And I was like, freaking mess.
And then you had to get a kidney transplant.
I had to train on a bicycle for months and get a director and a camera person that were bike proficient. And it was just, the thing was logistically so difficult. And like we tried it once with a car and it didn't work. And then I had to buy a bicycle in Kmart and just train. And that was rough. And I was in pain for days on that one. But that did well. People liked that one at the time. It was a long time ago.
Do you still hold the world record, the Guinness World Record for most flights?
Nah, somebody in Japan I heard recently, or like in the last couple of years, broke my Guinness World Record. I held it for a long time, 2009 until a couple of years ago. But that was the reason I did that. I had the most flights, airplane flights, scheduled flights, was
135, right?
Something like that. Yeah, I had a genuine fear of flying, and I thought the only way that I'd be able to really get over it was to force myself to fly over and over again. So I did it. I lived on a commercial airplane for an entire month, and I didn't. I slept on the plane. People get on and off, and I stayed there. I slept on the plane. So I didn't go into public for a month, and the airline was part of this. They sponsored it, and I was like 150 some, I think 130. I forget what it was, but it was a lot.
Well, I mean,
and all the pilots wanted to meet me and talk to me through my fear, and it was really helpful to get over it, and it really did help. So, but yeah.
I have a fear of needles, but I'm not going to get 135 shots in a row.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
no, I get that. I do get that.
Can we go back and talk a little bit about Fred Willard? Fred Willard,
yeah, he was a delightful man. Yeah,
he's never been a guest on this show, but we have used his soundbite of "Hey, what happened?" 1,000 times, and I'm wondering maybe Fred Willard's people are going to sue us, possibly. But we take this approach on this podcast, especially when we have a guest, is I try to do as much research as I possibly can, and Mike does zero research.
I do nothing.
Mike does nothing.
It works.
Here.
Just like on Best in Show.
Yeah.
So, but Fred was
so for me, for the first 20 minutes of this episode, I'm like, is this one of the guys from College Humor? I'm not really sure. I was going to say something, but then I was like, no, that's not him.
Yeah.
And then I saw you have a question about J.J. Abrams.
I saw a panel of a couple of people speaking with Steven Spielberg, and I thought it was you, but it was actually J.J. Abrams.
Oh, wow. I love J.J. Abrams. He drew a picture for me, like a self-portrait. I have it somewhere around here. I got to meet him, and he was really nice. But, I didn't know.
Did you have your photo taken together? Because you guys look like twins.
We did. We did a photo. I was a big Lost fan, and then I had him draw. Sometimes I would have that, back in the day when I was a teenager, like Phil Hartman, I have a self-portrait that he drew himself, and certain Conan drew me a Conan back in the day.
You're kidding.
No, I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any accessible right now, but the Chris Farley drew me a drawing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just asked people if they would draw themselves for me and sign it and stuff. So.
See, I've got to write all this down. Well,
Chris Elliott was really a good one. It looked like Chris Elliott when he did that for me, but Fred Willard was like the nicest guy. He was on the Carson podcast because the Ace Trucking Company went on a lot, and then I met him once at a party with mutual friends, and him and his wife, just delightful people, really nice man.
You're listening to Irritable Dad Syndrome, perfect for the air fryer.
When we were on the Letterman podcast, and by the way, I feel bad because when I was on the Letterman podcast, I was the first guest on the Letterman podcast. So Mike Chisholm had reached out to me, and we recorded the interview. And before we ended, I said, you know what? I am so flattered to be your first guest. And I said it as a joke. Right, because he had recorded 3 or 4, and since I said that, I think he felt obligated, and then he made me his first guest, and so I thought that the Letterman podcast is going to be this little dog and pony podcast with fans of the show and whatever, and then within 2 or 3 weeks, you come on, and I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah,
why was I the first guest when he was getting powerhouse people like
Mike does a great job. I was nice that he asked me. That's like another thing. I people are nice sometimes to have me on things, but very few people would ever ask me about Letterman, and I love talking about it. And that was such a cool thing to talk to Mike just for a while, just about my experience at Letterman, and that place was. It was so. I mean, I was at Dave's first taping at CBS on August 30th, '93. I went to the NBC show 5 times as a teenager to be in the audience. So to work there was such a big deal. I mean, to be there, and
I bet.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I started my TV career about a week or so before Letterman came on CBS.
Wow.
And so my first day, this is at WJHL TV, Johnson City, Tennessee. I walk in and they're taking me around the studio and the back rooms and everything. I'm walking through Master Control and there's this live feed of Letterman doing all his affiliate reads.
Right here on WEYI TV 25.
And by about 10 minutes into it, he is done. I mean, he has had it.
I bet.
Yeah.
He doesn't normally do those things
Right.
ever. And
Well, he was doing all of that for CBS, news show and everything like that. And so I really felt like, holy crap, I am in the business. I am seeing this that David Letterman is doing that nobody else sees.
On the feed. It's a big deal. Yeah, to see that.
I thought I'm just
curtain.
hot stuff.
Yeah. No, it was really cool, like being at the show and in like the conference room, like watching rehearsal. Like I wasn't allowed to be there for rehearsal; only certain people were. But then, like for the show, I was allowed to be in the studio, which most people weren't. So that was good. I was in the audience department, so I had an office on the 8th floor, and then I could go down. But Dave, I still think like in terms of like the NBC show is just, it's amazing how that thing holds up. I think that's like the funniest. The first couple years of CBS for sure.
So when we were on Mike Chisholm's show, you were talking about that you've done stand-up or you haven't done stand-up in a while.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about a night that you killed and then tell me about a night that you bombed?
Yeah, like I remember just like going up on like a Gotham Comedy Club back in the day, and it was just like, I think it was one of those things I just didn't care, and I was just like in a bad mood, and it just worked. The energy worked for the audience, and like it's like got off stage, and like all the comics like coming up to me and being like just like freaking out, and that energy, and then I just was not consistent. I don't think I for whatever reason, like I had like pretty bad stage fright back then, like in terms of like I would hyperventilate on stage and shake sometimes with my hands.
I used to do that. I couldn't hold the microphone still, so I would keep I would keep it in the mic stand.
Yeah, I had some tough times, so I think that like was tough. Some people are able to use those nerves and stuff. And then like the eating it, it would happen like at Boston Comedy Club numerous times. I killed numerous times just going up there and just like, it's the most painful thing, at least like in a sketch group, which I was in a sketch group, like you can at least make it like be with other people and share that together going down in the ship. But dang, I mean, the thing is like I've seen so many famous people bomb just trying out new material or whatever, and it's just like it's part of the process. I just really wish when I started out that I knew a little bit more about that. I knew a little bit, but to the extent of how just to get to that really funny 5 minutes, what that takes for most people.
Yeah. Well, cool. Mark, this has been a thrill.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for asking me. I'm so much more comfortable doing the other way around. I always think I'm a terrible guest, but thank you for building up my self-esteem.
I wanted to mention one other thing. I was impressed by this.
Yeah.
You did, it was either motivational speaking or I don't know the group that you were talking to, but your message was with perseverance and asking, miraculous things can happen. And I was like really impressed with that because you were talking about how difficult it was to do the IKEA thing and to do the flight and to do the all these things that people thought were silly, but they didn't really know
all that went into it,
everything that went into doing it. And so it was just like, hey kids, keep working hard. And a lot of people don't try to convey that message anymore, but I applaud you for that.
I really appreciate it. I did a TEDx, and then I think the thing you're talking about is maybe Ignite. And that was like, I was so nervous because like I hadn't been in front of a live audience in years, and I didn't think I could do it, but I just like spent days and days on that thing rehearsing. So I knew every syllable, and it was like just neurologically in my body. And the response was amazing. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, that's always been like my thing, has been just trying to be politely persistent and pull stuff off that people would told me there's no way you're going to be able to do this.
Right.
Some of the stuff you just never know. Power of asking, I definitely think is And like, sometimes I just don't listen to my own advice. I did a podcast for a while called Persistence 360. I talked to some like the most in all different fields and stuff with people pulling off just like things that people didn't think would be pull off and some of the stuff. And that I need to go back and I think listen to that podcast. But I do appreciate you mentioning that talk that I did.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great message. Well, before we go, tell people again how they can get your book.
Okay, so Love Johnny Carson is currently available for pre-order, and that would help me out big time. It's available on everywhere from Amazon to BarnesandNoble.com, Target, Walmart, Books A Million, local bookstores, anywhere. It comes out October 21st. And I talked to over 400 people. It's Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show, The Guest, the highs, the lows, a lot of stuff that's never been talked about. And can't believe, I mean, the guy is a lot of people say the most famous man in America for 30 years, just number one. And there's a reason that he was able to sustain that. And I go with that in the book. And I do feel, because I've read pretty much every Johnny Carson book, I do think that this is the most accurate portrayal of Carson talking to his friends and the people that knew him and the co-workers. I feel like Ed McMahon just like really laid on like, I don't know, a little too hard on building up Johnny where, I don't know. It just and then you had a lot of negative books from like a few people that just had problems with him. But I feel like that this is a good balance of who the guy was. And overwhelmingly, it's positive. I mean, that's the portrayal I got from talking to people. Overwhelmingly. And there are a few detractors that wouldn't talk to me. I tried to talk to, I can only think of 3 or 4 people that had a problem with him and none of them would talk to me, and that's fine. But I wanted to just be as neutral as I could and just to tell what really happened with Joan Rivers and Johnny, because it's never been told before. And I talked to all these people that were there in the trenches, and to hear the stories of what really happened is like, and to tell that story. I think hopefully people will, that will be something that people will enjoy.
Well, good. And your book is going to make the perfect stocking stuffer. If you have a stocking able to hold a book.
I hope so. Father's Day, Christmas, Hanukkah.
It's a perfect Hanukkah present.
Anything. I can't believe the thing's coming out. It's for real. We got some really nice blurbs. Dick Cavett really liked the book. Ray Romano wrote good stuff about it.
Well, good. I wish you all the luck. And
thank you, gentlemen.
I hope you come back on Irritable Dad Syndrome sometime. We loved having you.
Oh my goodness, it'd be an honor. Thank you just for even thinking of me and asking. And you guys do a great job, so I really appreciate it.
Well, good. Thank you again for being on the show. And listen, for everybody out there in Irritable Dad Syndrome land, you can go to irritabledadsyndrome.com. If you want to help us out, you can support us. You can go to Patreon and help us out. And you can buy stuff. You can like and share all our videos. We're everywhere, so we hope you
literally can't put Irritable Dad into Google and not have something of ours pop up at this point.
That's true. Yeah. We're almost at 5 years, and we wouldn't be here without the love and support of all of our loyal fans, and we thank you so much. And we hope to see you next week on Irritable Dad Syndrome.
Irritable Dad Syndrome is a Mike Odell, Darren Cox production.
So I'm going to edit out that awkward pause to make it appear that I knew what I was talking about. And I was very nervous. I'm like, I can't. I reached out to Mike Chisholm. I'm like, I can't ask him to do the podcast. I'm scared. He goes, why?
Oh, gosh. Wow.
So scared.
I'm like, that's nice. I really appreciate your kind words.
I wasn't scared. Now I'm terrified.
I know. I'm very scared.
Every once in a while, I have an existential crisis thing that happens during the podcast, and I kind of pull out of it, and I'm watching. So this is the episode where I'm just watching the episode happen.
Okay.
And I realized part of the way, like I think it was like 20 minutes in, it's like I have a question or two. It'd be cool if I were on this podcast and I could ask a question. And then I realized I'm on the podcast. I'm right there. I could see myself. I just speak the question into them. It's weird. I don't know what the hell happens. Every once in a while when we have a guest. Part of it is where Bess just told me right before we came downstairs, your interview last week was great. Maybe, Mike, you should shut up every once in a while and let them talk. So that was in the back there. You let him do
all the talking.
Yeah.
We're happy to be your Tony Randall. If you ever just
thank you
cannot find anybody else,
We'll see.
Give us a call.
Yeah, we shall see.
We've now reached the part of the podcast where we're talking to people who have seen Saturday Night Live.
Yes. Hey, it's all good.
Comedian and filmmaker Mark Malkoff.
Mark Malkoff.
Mark Malkoff.
Mark Malkoff. Mark Malkoff.
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 Mark Malkoff.
Mark Malkoff.
Mark Malkoff.
Mark Malkoff. Mark, welcome.